Thank you.
Thank you, and I call on the Assistant Minister, the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My children are in childcare this week. It's what enables me to be here doing my job, enabling me to be here today to vote to lower the cost of childcare for 6,800 families in my electorate. I want to start by saying thank you to our early childhood educators. Thank you for educating the next generation. Thank you for making both our economy and our society work. Thanks for all of the work you do before you even step into an early education centre in studying and learning about early childhood development. And I know how important your work is, not just because of what I've seen in my own children, which I'll talk about more in a moment, but because I've seen my mum do that work. My mum was an early childhood teacher for a number of decades. I'm so proud of the work that Wendy has done in building up the next generation, and it's always a delight whenever I'm with her in Fremantle and one of her former students comes up to her and says thank you. To see the joy on both their faces is just something incredibly special. And what we know is that our early educators and early childhood education does give children the best start in life. And that's why I also want to say thank you to those who campaigned for this change. Organisations like the Parenthood, Thrive by Five, the United Workers Union, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Western Australia, and centre directors and staff from across Australia, to name just a few. I've seen the benefits of a quality early childhood education in my own household. Last week, my son Leo turned 5. Happy birthday again, Leo. He never gets sick of hearing that. And a special congratulations to Jess, who met the objectives that he set out in a dinosaur Lego rocket-themed birthday cake. She met that brief well. We've all heard the evidence that 90% of brain development happens in the first 5 years. My son turned 5, he's done. 90% done, 10% to go. But I've seen the benefits of that early learning. He writes stories, he writes songs, he can add and subtract and count to 100. He can ask questions about anything, and his emotional intelligence has turned him into an incredibly kind and compassionate young person. I know that early years education made that difference. And one of the things I want to articulate in this debate is just how many different fronts this investment that we as a parliament are making delivers on. Childcare investment delivers education for more Australians. This childcare investment will deliver support for vulnerable and disadvantaged children. It will deliver more emotional support for more Australian children. It will deliver on cost of living pressures, making sure that more people can afford to get their children into early education for more days. It will deliver on gender equality. It will deliver on higher superannuation balances for women. It will deliver more skills into our economy. It will deliver more prepared students into primary school and beyond. It will deliver improved literacy. It will deliver improved numeracy. It will deliver a growing Australian economy, and it is an investment in our nation's future. Both sides of this House agree that Australia still has a journey to go when it comes to achieving true gender equality. We know that we need to make those steps in that direction because it is not only the right thing to do, an overdue thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. Because we know that so much more economic growth is available to this nation when we harness the full potential of all of it. We can also ensure that we provide increased financial security, more leadership opportunities, and break what has been an accepted policy design in this place for too long, where the cost of childcare presents itself as a barrier to women entering further into the workforce, forcing them to reduce their hours, to turn down opportunities, and for many families it often makes financial sense for a parent, often the mother, to stay at home and work fewer hours. What we know is that in 2021 there were 73,000 people across this country who wanted to work but were not looking for work purely because of the cost of childcare. $73,000. Surely we can do something, and surely we cannot go another year with that being the case. And that's why this legislation is so important. I'm going to get to it. And it's important that we recognise that we will be doing this within the first 12 months of the Albanese government. Now, I don't know who else in this place had an opportunity to do something about this earlier. Why I've even advocated in the past. I wrote in 2020. That I believed that the former Morrison government should have stolen the policy that we put out, that now Prime Minister Albanese introduced in his budget reply.
Member for Aston. Sorry, I would appreciate the member being heard. So,
thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We owe it to those families who want more support to do something about it. It's as simple as that. The Treasury estimates on the impact of this bill are promising, suggesting it will increase the hours worked by women with young children by up to 1.4 million hours per week. That's the equivalent of an extra 37,000 full-time workers. And it's not just those workers that will benefit. We know that 1/3 of mothers work in industries facing severe shortages. They work in our hospitals, our aged care homes, our schools, across our society, fulfilling essential jobs in every facet of life. And we want to help them get back into that workforce and fill those skills gaps. I think it's interesting that if we look that this will come into effect next year, some 80 years after the Commonwealth first engaged in the business of financially supporting what was then called, and I'll quote from John Curtin, women war workers, and when they talk about the money provided for creches for their children. I think it's amazing that in the depths of World War II, that was the first time the Commonwealth engaged in the direct funding of early childhood education and care so that we could fill, again, skills gaps in our economy. And I think it's worth noting that it was, again, both times, Labor who have made these big steps in the right direction for supporting families who want to work, who we as a society need to work, by supporting properly funded early childhood education and care. This bill shows that we are determined to support families, particularly in the times we face. We know how many Australian families are already struggling to make ends meet. Childcare fees increased some 41% under the Coalition Government. 41% increase, meaning that parents, year on year, under the Liberals and the Nationals, had to sit down and consider really difficult questions. How much money is left after paying the childcare bills? How many days should they or their partner work? Is it worth working the 4th or the 5th day? Those questions both denied our economy, workers and skills, but also denied children access to the value of a high-quality early childhood education and care environment. And so what we see is, finally, a government that is determined, absolutely determined, to make sure that we act on childcare, act on this big cost of living pressure at one of the most expensive times for families, when you have a new young person in your family they are very demanding, they need lots of care and attention, and these bills do start to add up. And so I just say to those who are not yet convinced, or maybe considering amendments to this legislation, let's get it through, let's get it done. Families have waited for 9 long years. They finally have a government that wants to act and value early childhood education and the educators who work in this sector. And I'll finish my remarks where I started. Thank you to the educators of Australia. Thank you for what you do day in, day out to invest in and educate the next generation of Australians. Thank you.